Do you know that I don't do grocery shopping? My husband does the grocery shopping. I don't keep up with groceries. That is my husband's domain. It's his forte. He loves it because he's very health conscious. He wants to make sure we're eating good and balanced meals. I'm happy to cook whatever's in the pantry. So as long as he's bringing home the bacon, quite literally, I will cook it.
Hey Mama, welcome back to the Whole Mama Show. I'm your host, Aisha Mchuma O'Reilly, and we're revealing the untold stories of motherhood. The motherhood mental load. How do you understand that term? This is a term that for me has been all over my social media platforms, and it's now entering real life conversations that I'm having with fellow moms, with women. I think it's a great word to explain the weight that a lot of us modern moms are feeling, being so overwhelmed with all of the things that we need to remember to do. I recently shared a post about this on the Whole Mama page about some of the mental load that is often kind of considered invisible labor, but it is still labor nonetheless. It is the constant thinking of the appointments that you have to make for your children or your partner, what we're going to eat for dinner, that sports match that so-and-so has to pack their special sports bag for, and all of the things that, let's be honest, traditionally has fallen on the responsibilities of the mother of the home. So how do we navigate that? How do we not let the overwhelm get us? And most importantly, how do we not resent our husbands for not having to deal with the same thing? So before we get into this episode, please remember to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell below and follow me on social media. I am on all platforms as the Whole Mama, as well as my personal page, Aisha and Life. Sadie is a consultant, a content creator, a wife and mom of 3 who has overcome the resentment that comes from carrying the mental load of the house. This is her story.
Hey Sadie, how are you doing?
Hi, Asha. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I'm so excited and I'm so happy that when I reached out to you, you're just like, absolutely, yes. I can't remember what words you used. Something along those lines.
Yes.
So for the benefit of my viewers and my listeners, can you please share who you are, what do you do, and who calls you mama?
Okay, so I'm Sadie Torquato. I am a marketing consultant. I specialize in digital marketing, media buying, and influencer marketing. Bit of an influencer / content creator myself, finally taking myself seriously. So leaning into that quite a bit. You can follow me on Instagram at Sadie Torquato. Don't hurt yourself trying to say it out loud. And I'm a very proud mama of 3 gorgeous children that I share with my husband.
When you say gorgeous, like these kids,
they
are beautiful.
They take my breath away. I cannot believe that I made such perfect humans, and their personalities just shine through like they're such a gift. I love them.
And please remind me, how old are they? What are their ages again?
So my eldest daughter is 10, then my middle boy is 6, and my baby Tomasz is 1. So I've got Talia, Tiago, and Tomasz.
It's quite a bit, right? Like
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, my house is full. My house is very, very full. There's never a room that is empty. There's always someone in every room. It's always taken up. There's always noise. Like yesterday, I had some errands to run, so I left Jolson with the children. And when I came back, it was around bath time, so I assumed he'd be bathing them. So I assumed I'd walk into quite a bit of chaos. Because I was entering through the garage and onto the patio, the house was like dead quiet, like the lights off. And I was like, what's going on? Did he put them to take them out? And then I started to hear it. Everybody was in the room, and I opened the bedroom door, and there's jumping and there's playing, and one is in a towel, one is and I'm like, yep, there's my family.
It's chaos. Like, it's reminding me of my home as well. I don't know if it's a 3-kid thing or what it is, because I feel like when I had 2 kids, it was like, okay, But then the third one came, and I feel like it's just become a circus, So similarly to yours, I'm used to the noise, but I kind of only realize that we're so noisy when someone from the outside, either like like someone in my family calls me or like on the phone and they're like, geez, that house is so noisy. What's going on?
Yes.
Or like, somebody who has maybe like one of my friends who has like one child, she might come in and it's like, whoa, okay. Like
We're just this morning. Just this morning, Jolson said to me, because I was singing a song to Tommy, and I have this really loud, annoying voice. I'm not going to sing it for you on here, or you're going to lose listeners. I have this really loud, annoying voice that I use for the children. And I know I annoy them, but I have to do it. And so I was doing it to the Tommy, and Jolson looks at me, he's like, you're so loud. And then I realized, you know what? I get so overstimulated. There are literally times where I want everybody out of my sight. We don't have an open plan kitchen. It's sort of like an L-shaped kind of thing. So when people are in the kitchen with me, they bumping me and they touching me and I'm just, get out, get out. Yeah. But then he said, but you are just as loud as us. You are part of the overstimulation. I'm like, you caught me. My bad. But you know what else I'm finding? That's so funny about having these three kids is that I've got a daughter who is a preteen who I've had to have the talk with. So that's the level of engagement that I'm having with my daughter. Then I have a grade school middle child who just lost his teeth. So we're talking about the tooth fairy. And then I have a 1-year-old who just started to walk and, pick up rocks and stuff in the garden. So it's not just the quantity of children, the sheer quantity that I have, but just the fact that I have to be 3 different types of moms at the same time. It is crazy up in here.
I can so relate to that. So I've got Kai, who's 9, and then Kenzo is 5, and then Amaya's 3. So I've done my potty training, but she's still technically a toddler. But then I've got Kenzo, who's just lost his first tooth. And then I've got Kai, who's also starting to get into that preteen, mommy, get off me. Like,
Right. What is with the age group? Talia and Kai are in grade 3 and 4. And it's like they think they're so big now. Excuse me. Even the little baby face like falls away. They look like big children. And it's like, no. It's like, I can't.
I completely relate to you when you say you have to be 3 different moms before you officially welcome Talia into the world. Can you just share your experience of how you first became a mom?
Oh my gosh. So I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I grew up in a really, when I say that I had an idyllic childhood, I really mean that it was perfect. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know about me is that my mom that I talk about today is actually my stepmom. My mom passed away when I was 11. And my dad got remarried when I was around 13 years old. But for me, there was no difference between stepmom and mom, because when you have a mom from 13, that's when it really it's a different level of mothering. And she was there for me. She showed up for me as my mother. So there really is no distinction. The way I see my life, I was only without a mother for 2 years. Other than that, I've always had a mother. So even the trauma of losing my mom, it did not take away the fact that I had a perfect, idyllic childhood. White picket fence, beautiful big yard with a pool, full house, siblings, live-in help who was always there for us. Perfect childhood. And because of that, I always wanted to be a mom. I don't think I wanted as many as 3 children because this is crazy. But I knew that I wanted at least one. I knew that that's what I wanted. And it was only when I met Jolson that I don't know, it just something woke up in me. I knew that I was serious about him, but I've never dated someone that gave me that feeling you could start a family with this person. Then we went to Angola for the first time. He's from Angola. And because we were now really serious in our relationship and really planning the future, he wanted me to meet his family. Went over to Angola, and I think that my ovaries just exploded. I was like, no, this is where I need to be. I love this family. I love their culture. I love all these beautiful little children all around me, because he has lots of siblings. The siblings have lots of children. It's just a really big, full family, much like mine. And I was like, nah, this is it for me. And that was the moment where I knew that it's time to crack these eggs and become a mom. When I just knew. And so Talia wasn't necessarily a planned baby because I was actually at varsity at the time. I was still finishing up some of my studies. So she wasn't necessarily planned. But when I got that pregnancy test and I was like, oh, okay, you're pregnant, nothing was clearer to me than my desire to be a mother. Even if it meant dropping out of varsity to work, which I fortunately didn't have to do. Even if it meant moving to another country, which fortunately I didn't have to do. No matter what it took, I knew that I was going to have this baby, and this is the only thing that I want in this life.
Wow.
I had such a one-track mind about it. I was like, I'm having this baby. This baby is meant to be.
Yeah. So just like in terms of the details, because it's sounding like you knew almost right away, but take me back. How long were you with your husband? Were you guys married, engaged before you had your child? Were you still dating? Like, if you can just give me a little bit of like context before you became a mom.
So this is a very interesting story, and I love telling it to people because it really gives you a perspective into what our roles are as mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, women, men in this type of relationship. We were together for 3 years when we got pregnant with Talia. And at the time, we were not married, we were not living together, we were not engaged. Jolson lived on his own because he had been living on his own since he was a teenager to come and finish his studies here in South Africa with his whole family back in Angola. So he always had his own like space, which I could have easily just moved into with the baby and called it a day.
Yeah.
But there were so many things going on. He really wanted us to be married. His family really wanted us to be married because as Christians, we wanted to do the right thing. We messed up. We were pregnant now, but we want to do the right thing and be married. And there was pressure from my family as well. You're going to marry my daughter. Shotgun wedding. We're doing this. And at one point, I was like, you know what? You guys are right. He needs to do right by me. I'm going to get married. So I started putting the pressure. And then he was like, this is too much for me. Like he had just graduated and he had just started a really low paying job and he was really stressed out. His girlfriend is pregnant. He's a young man. He was only 23, young man, just starting out his life and did not plan for any of this and is completely overwhelmed. So then I pulled back because I realized this is going to break our relationship. So I was like, I don't want to lose him. And I also don't want to stress myself out. I'm pregnant for the first time. I want to enjoy this. And I want to make sure that I take care of my health and his. So we left it. Had the baby. He proposed, which was fabulous. The ring, so gorgeous. He proposed. It was the clumsiest, most stupid, ridiculous proposal. I always tell him he needs to redo it. It was poor. Like, it was so poor, but you know what? He was so nervous. And like I said, he had so much going on in his life. I had so much empathy for him. I was like, yeah, just get up, put the ring on. Let's just go. Let's just do it. So we fought a lot about that proposal, but you know what? He is what I wanted. So it's okay. Yeah. So then we dropped it. We're like, okay, cool. Let's plan for the wedding for after we have the baby. I'll stay in my parents' house for a while we get the wedding together because the wedding planning is very complicated. He's Angolan, I'm South African. We have very different traditions. Well, not different, but different expectations. There's cuisine that needs to be accounted for. There's different, the traditional wedding that they do in Angolan culture that needs to be done. It's very complicated. So We're like, let's focus on the baby first, get the baby sorted, get me sorted, let me recover, and then we'll get married at a later stage. No pressure whatsoever. We hadn't even set a date. We knew it would be summer. It would either be summer here or in Angola. We just knew that the marriage would be less of a priority right now. The priority right now is having the baby. Okay. Baby is born. Our routine was, Jolson's mom was in the country, obviously, to come and help me with the baby. So my parents are still working and we're still working at times, so they would go. And then during the day, Jolson's mom would come over. She'd help me with the baby. I'd make her some lunch and then she'd go home. And then Jolson would come in the evening after work because his office was very close to my parents' house. He worked grueling hours. This job was so stressful. He was so tired. He was really just so stressed. So he would come home in the evening, have some dinner with my family, and then he would take Talia to have some connection time with her, but he would fall asleep every time. Him and I weren't even like really connecting or talking ourselves. And I'd have to wake him up like, hey, bro, you got to go home. It's a colored household. We don't let the boyfriends and the fiancés stay here. You got to go home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that really took its toll on him. At the time, I was in a happy bubble. I had my baby. I didn't care about anything else. The wedding was not on my mind. The engagement wasn't on my mind. I was so obsessed with this baby. She was so perfect and gorgeous. She was a dream come true. And my mind was just, I'm going to finish my studies. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to take care of my baby. It was just me and this baby, me and the baby, me and the baby. And Jolson one day came to me and he said, I can't do this anymore. I need to be a part of my own family. I'm not a part of my own family. I need you guys. I feel like I'm not a father. I need to marry you. And we decided that being married is more important than having a wedding. So Jolson took a bit of money from his family as well, and they booked a beautiful boutique hotel. Jolson did the invitation. He chose the menu. He did everything, got himself a suit, sorted himself. I was like, I'm going to marry you next week. Let's do this. And his family flew in. We had a very, very intimate ceremony. It all happened so fast that some of my closest friends weren't even there. It was just like, it was a proper shotgun wedding. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But the most beautiful night because Jolson was choosing to be a father and choosing to be a husband and not just a guy who comes and visits the baby.
I was feeling quite emotional. It's not emotional like I'm sad, but like it's just so touching because as much as it's what should happen, I put that in air quotes for anybody who's not watching this this conversation, it doesn't happen often. At least we don't hear about often.
Yeah.
Let's say that. We don't really hear. He was young, like you said, he was 23. That for me, in my big old age, I'm like, that's a child.
Yeah.
But he, he pulled his socks up and he got his girl, his girl with his baby girl. And I think that's just, it speaks to a lot of like, if he wanted to, he would kind of.
For sure, yeah.
Because I definitely feel that, especially now, and I stand to be corrected, it could have been like this a while ago as well, but I feel like especially now, there is so much weighing on young men and what they can bring to the table in terms of financial, and stability and all of that. And you, as a woman, it's almost like, I feel like society would have been completely understanding of you saying, you know what, you're not ready to take care of me. You're not ready to take care of our baby. Come back when you're ready. But instead of doing that, you were empathetic towards him and you saw he was struggling and you were able to be like, you know what, like, let me back off a little bit. Let him find his, I obviously don't know your husband, but I venture a guess that probably also maybe told him that he's safe with you. And that's something that we don't talk about often, that he can rely on you as much as you can rely on him. And the yearning he had to unite you officially, whether it was a big wedding or not, which you guys, like you said, you agreed, like, you know what, it's more important to be married than to have this big fancy wedding. And it cripples so many couples.
We were able to do because we didn't have that in the very beginning of our relationship. It's actually set us up really well. So I don't have any regrets at all.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's just nice to hear, that there's no like unnecessary drama. Like you have your own version of drama, if that makes any sense. Like, you had to send him home because he can sleep over and stuff like it wasn't like he was like, you know what, I'm out or whatever.
I think it also just meant a lot that he was choosing us, not responding to just pressure. He spaced in the time as a man to think about what he wants his life to look like and who he wants to be, because he didn't want to just have a wife and kids. He wanted to be a father and a husband.
Oh, yes. That's so important. He needs to want it for himself, and then he needs to want to play those roles, not just have the titles. I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Like how many months, or how old was she rather? How old was Talia when you got married?
She was born in Feb. We got married in May. So she was just 3 months. Tiny little thing.
Yeah.
Tiny little thing.
And how was your like your state of, your state of mind?
Honestly, I had such clarity of mind, after I decided to focus on the baby. I was torturing my husband when I was pregnant. I was torturing him. It's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. When I had it in my mind that if we don't get married, then none of this is valid. When I was really like, pushing him and really applying that pressure and like projecting that pressure onto him. I was a nightmare. I was hell. But when I decided to put that aside for now and just focus on the baby, I had so much clarity and so much peace in my heart. And in the face of a lot of uncertainty, because we were so young, and I mean, I was just finishing up at varsity, had just finished. There was so much uncertainty, but I had so much clarity, like a supernatural clarity. So when Jolson said, look, I just want you to be my wife, like right now, and I don't care how we do it, I was like, this feels like a natural state for us to be in. You know, when you align for something that you're going to receive in the future, it felt like an alignment. It felt like, because I was so focused on Talia's future, it was almost as if I was ready to receive Jolson into that future.
Yes.
Because I was doing the work myself, and then he just joined in that flow. It was perfectly natural progression for us. It was fantastic being together as a married couple, choosing each other, not because of money or family or anything like that. Just being together and just doing this life thing. It was incredible. It was really like things just came together for us.
Yeah, I love that. You know what? It's very, like, again, it's rare, you know? And maybe it's not rare in actuality, but let's be real, on social media especially, you just hear of just a lot of, you know, drama and back and forth. And, you know, so I want to just take this moment to just celebrate love as the hopeless romantic that I am. I just love it. I really do. So, but having said that, right? And as smooth as things kind of like interlock, now 3 kids in, basically, what would you say, if you could sort of mention 1 or 2 things, has been like the most challenging part about your journey in motherhood?
So one thing that really knocked me like a bag of bricks, I did not expect this to happen at all, was the mental load. I did not even think that this thing had a name, but the minute I became a mom, I started taking on mental load, planning my days to the hour. What time must Talia bath? What time must I feed her? Breastfeeding is also a mental load, part of that mental load. When do I do her laundry? When do I do this? Then I went back to varsity doing my studies. Okay, if I wake up at this time, then I can be back to breastfeed Talia at this time, and I need to make sure that I do, and blah, 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 blah. Then I became a wife, and now I've got a household of my own. Okay, I need to pack lunch for Jolson because he's going to work. I need to do this. I need to make sure that I'm at this time. Talia needs her vaccinations. I need to take her on this day. Blah, 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 blah. Mental load. Then we have another child. Okay, now I've got a job. I'm in corporate now. And all of it was just me anticipating not only my own needs, but everybody else's needs. And I was constantly like in planning mode from a personal perspective. What do I need? But all of the what do I need feeds into what does everybody else need. I need to shower because they need breakfast. I need to leave this time for work because they need to be at school. I need to make sure I'm at the home at this time because I need to do that for them. It became this constant thing where everything I did for myself was literally for the household. And I don't even blame them, because I'm the only mother in this household. Everyone in this household is someone's child. But I am the only one who is a mother. And it's literally not even something anybody in this household expects of me. It's just someone I became. I can't even, like, sometimes I get resentful, like, oh, Jolson, why don't you also just think a little bit, if we have a children's party to go to this weekend, why can't you also buy I can't even really sit in that resentment, because I can't explain how I got here. I can't explain how I became this person. I used to be the person asking my mom for everything, borrowing her brain to tell me where the socks are. Now I'm the person who knows where everything is. And it's not because I put it there. It's not because it's mine. It's just because I know. And it freaks me out because I don't know how I came to know this. Like, it's weird. Yeah. It's so weird. So it's definitely the mental load. I don't know how I got here. I sometimes feel judgmental of other women who complain, oh, my husband doesn't do this, my husband doesn't do that. And I judge them because I tell them, what are your expectations of him? Have you told him he must do this? Must he, you take on everything because you're such a control freak, but do you even allow your husband to make mistakes and to try it out, whatever? But I've realized these women are just taking on mental load. Maybe they're just not doing it in a healthy way. but we cannot escape it. It's just something that latches itself onto you as a mother, as the only mother in the household. I couldn't escape it. I don't know how I got this way. I cannot explain it.
That's so interesting that you say that, because the resentment part, I think, like, after experiencing it myself towards my husband, as well as, speaking to, moms all the time. I speak to moms all the time. That resentment thing, especially when it comes to the mental load, like you're saying, right? How can we avoid it? Do you have any tips? Because let's be
Yeah.
real, as women, just in general, I'm generalizing, but we really aren't that great at communicating that we need help, right? So we get passive aggressive, and or we get quiet, and we moan to our friends or on social media, whatever it is, because we have been kind of conditioned to just get on with it, isn't it? But
Yes.
then exactly that, we get on with it, and some people accept, okay, I have to get on with it, and it's fine. But then others, myself included, we sometimes get resentful.
Yeah.
I'm not as bad as I was a few years ago, but I'm not gonna lie, when I'm sleep deprived, which happens still, or whatever, it's like a stressful time, there are times that I'm just like, can you just not find the whatever it is, that book that went missing a couple weeks ago on your own? Why do you automatically have to ask me when you haven't even tried to look for it? So how have you gotten to this like sacred place, of not feeling resentful and just be like, yeah, well, of course it's me.
I lean into it, Aisha. Like, there's no point fighting it. When we are good communicators, I'm going to give us that. What we're not good at is delegating. We are not good
Yes.
delegators. We suck at that because, like I said, we are control freaks. We want to do it because we know nobody knows better than us, right? And I don't blame us because, like I said, it's something that just is thrust upon you. The baby goes out and the control freak goes in. It just happens. It possesses us. So I don't blame women for taking that on. But what I'm saying is offload some of the other stuff then. Mental load, if taking on that mental load is an area that you thrive in because you really don't think anyone can do it like you, then lean into that. Be that person. Be the GPS in the house who knows where everything is. Be the one who keeps the family diary because you're the only one who can keep it organized and you're the only one who likes to stay on top of things. If you don't trust that your husband can do something, do it yourself, but then dump some of the others. Do you know, and I love telling people this because the reaction is always the same. Do you know that I don't do grocery shopping?
Okay, who does it?
My husband does the grocery shopping. I literally have to call him sometimes like, babe, is this are these eggs expensive? Babe, is this the right price for bread? He'll tell me, oh, do you know milk costs this much now? And I'm like, I didn't know that it costs anything else. I don't keep up with groceries. That is my husband's domain. It's his forte. He loves it because he's very health conscious. He wants to make sure we're eating good and balanced meals. I'm happy to cook whatever's in the pantry. So as long as he's bringing home the bacon, quite literally, I will cook it. And that is one of the ways that I have taken mental load off of myself. I'm happy. I'm so happy to be the person who knows where things are and knows where things go and control the family calendar because I feel in control and I thrive in that role. The resentment comes if I have to still do this, do that on top of everything else. So what I'm saying to women is it's okay if you're taking on this task in its entirety, but then you've got to know where else you're going to let things like dump other things on to your spouse or your community that supports you. If mental load is the thing that you don't want to get rid of or you don't know where to start to get rid of, lean into it. Lean into it. That could be the area that you thrive in. You don't have to thrive in every area, but thrive in that area that you can't seem to offload onto someone else then.
I'm wondering, how did that conversation look like? Because you mentioned that your husband, he's very, health conscious and stuff. Did you have that conversation of delegating household responsibilities? Like how, for example, the grocery thing, and I don't know what else is his domain, but let's carry on with the grocery conversation. How did he become the grocery shopper? Can you take us through that? Because I think some women are like, I would love to delegate. I would love for my husband to take on extra tasks.
Yeah.
But how do I even get him to do it, you know?
So I don't know if my answer will be helpful because it doesn't come from the context of mental load. I didn't sit him down one day and say, babe, I'm stretched, so then please take some stuff off my plate. It
Yeah.
was a completely unrelated conversation. We were looking at our budget and my husband thought I was overspending on groceries. And I was like, yeah, but the cost of living is high. He's like, no, let me do groceries for the next 2 months and I'll show you. I can do it better than you. I said, bet. The floor is yours, brother. It's all yours. And he does do it better than me. It's been about 3 years and this man has been doing the groceries. I do spot groceries every now and then, but I always know that I'm doing the wrong thing because he goes to like various places. Me, I want convenience. I go to one place.
Yes.
And it's not the right place. So what I realized through that conversation is that I became less resentful of my mental load because this thing was off my plate. It clicked for me that, oh, I'm happier now suddenly. It's not so much that I have more time on my hands because now Jolson does the groceries, but it's I have less to think about now. And the thinking is what was getting to me. And now it doesn't get to me anymore because I have one less thing to think about. It's something that I could offload. Let me tell you something. Your husband is not going to understand you when you use the word mental load.
Yes.
For men, and it's not because men don't have mental load, it's just not the same and they don't use the same words. So you probably won't see eye to eye if you approach the conversation with, I am overloaded mentally. This is what I need. But there are other ways to analyze your needs, analyze your strengths and your weaknesses as a couple, because that's where the conversation came from. There was a weakness identified and Jolson thought he could cover me in this regard. And that's how it happened. Maybe don't approach it from a, I need help, babe. Maybe approach it from a, babe, are we optimizing our partnership right now? Are we both playing to our strengths right now? Can we swap? Can we move things around? Can we try something new? And I think that's what get a lot of the resentment off you.
Yes, yes. And I'm completely agreeing with you because it's something that my husband and I think we only kind of, I wouldn't say figured it out, right? Because you're constantly evolving and growing together. But we had that kind of conversation a few years ago with cooking. I don't enjoy it. It's not my thing. It was when we had Kai, my firstborn. I was breastfeeding. I was doing this, I was and bath Kai and, but we still needed to eat. My husband can cook. And so he was just like, because I told him, like, I can't do A, B, C, D, E, F, and all of that. So what can you do? He said, well, I can cook. I'm like, then cook. And
Then
that's
cook, yes.
how he became the chef of the house for about 8 years, 8 years or something. The only one who did the cooking. I did the bathing. I did all of those other baby caring things and we were both working. So we had a similar conversation. And we revisit it every once in a while. At the end of the day, the kids need to be in bed by 7:30. How can we get them there like the quickest way? So I love the way that you use the word optimize, because I think that's a word that a lot of men in general can understand. When you say,
yes,
are we optimizing
you
our...
have to speak to them like you've written the 7 laws of power. Do you know what I mean? You got to speak to them like you're writing one of their books that they like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You speak to them like that, they're like, I'm in. I'm sold.
Even as you were saying how he's like, I bet you I can do groceries better than you. Like, yeah, bet. Okay, cool. So I love that you brought like, that part of sort of like a competitive edge, a little bit of, fun to it, but it solved a problem. And I think that's great. It doesn't always have to be like this thing where you sit down and you have this like, oh, we have to go to couples therapy to figure this out. It's like, okay, how do we make it work? And I think that on its own is like such a great example of the teamwork that's required in a marriage, in a partnership, when you're building a family. So I love that. Do you think, I'd love to get your opinion on the women, the moms who sort of like, they resent the husbands who don't help in the, household responsibilities and the mental load of raising a family. Do you ever think that maybe it's also because they find their own value in doing that? Because, when we grew up, a lot of our moms, a lot of our aunties, a lot of our grandmothers and stuff, we saw them doing that. So at least for me, I can say for sure that I felt like I had to take on certain things because I just saw my mom doing it. You know, it wasn't something that I necessarily questioned, but I understood that my value as a wife, my value as a woman comes from the service that that I sort of give to my family and my home.
Mm,
It's, almost topic for another conversation because we can go
mm.
further into that. But do you think that's possibly also a reason why women sort of like, and mothers in particular, kind of hold on to this control that you're talking about?
So I'm absolutely obsessed with this question because Jolson and I, realizing how at odds we were with our own upbringings, really put things into perspective for us. So I've spoken a little bit about my childhood, very idyllic. I had a mom, I had a dad, had brothers and a sister. I had a very fabulous, peaceful childhood. My
Yes.
parents performed very traditional roles, although they both worked, the person who cooked, the one who planned the events, the one who took us shopping, the one who nurtured. And my
Yes.
father was the provider. My father
Yes.
was very emotionally present, especially for my sister and I. But in a larger sense, he was very happy to open his wallet and let my mom do. Do you know what I mean? They were very much, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck, and she turns the
Yes.
head. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Fast forward, the year is 2023, 2024. I'm having a heart to heart with my mom, and she's telling me how she doesn't cook anymore. She doesn't do all the stuff anymore because it doesn't serve her. Everything she taught my sister and I about being a wife, she does not apply in her own life anymore.
Yeah.
So we realized that we were completely at odds. And I was like, you know what, Ma, you're right, because I was trying to do all these things like you did. You were doing both, a career woman and a homemaker. You were doing both. And I've
Yes.
been driving myself batty, trying to do both. And she was like, my child, we can't. It only took her like however many years, decades, because she's been married before my father. And in both marriages, she did the same things. She overstretched herself and it did not work for her. And only now, my sister and I are grown. We're out of the house. We have our own children. We have our own households. And the three of us came together and we realized, you know what? This thing doesn't work. It doesn't work. We were deluding ourselves. It's never been traditional. There is no such thing as the man comes and does this, the woman. No, it just doesn't work. So my father, at his ripe age, is finally starting to cook dinner for my mom and wash dishes and do the things I never saw him do growing up, but it took my mom that many years to figure out there's no such thing that's so rigid. And then Jolson's upbringing also at odds with everything we know and have been taught. Jolson's mom is very much the matriarch of her family. She built a business for the family by herself as a single mom. It was her and her sister raising her children, and everyone is thriving. She built generational wealth for her family. They're all so successful and such fantastic people. And then there's Jolson's mom. She's someone who I admire so much. She's very much the matriarch of her family. Her and her sister basically raised the family as partners. It was all her children. And like black families, your cousins or your siblings kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she raised generations of children by herself with her sister. And she built a business as well, thriving family business. And she's built such an incredible legacy, generational wealth. Everyone is so successful and so independent, doing so well for themselves. And she did that without a man. And she had to face insurmountable odds in the workplace. I mean, being a woman in Angola at the time, in the 80s and the 90s, it was crazy. They just had like civil war and like things were crazy in the country back then. But she thrived despite all of these circumstances. This stuff that we as South Africans, we really do take for granted. You know what I mean? And she was able to do this without a man. And yet, Jolson still entered our marriage with certain expectations. And yet, her sons still had certain ideas in their minds, like, women should do this. And then I said to him, but your mother was not traditional.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. Jolson's mom herself also has certain expectations of women. Like she has certain ideas about, gender and, the way we have to perform certain things and roles in the house. And I found it so interesting because none of that served her. You know what I mean? The same way none of it served my mom. We still have it so ingrained in us to do that. But when we're actually in the house and we're actually doing the stuff, it's like we're not applying any of those rules. There are certain things that are very gender-based that Jolson and I do expect of each other. But for the most part, none of none of those things served any of the women who brought us to where we are today. My mom
Yes.
and Shulson's mom, they didn't have the luxury of just being women, as if that's easy.
Definitely not. But I'm curious, can you share maybe two or three sort of typical gendered things that you do with Jilson, like that you guys do that is very woman, very man?
So one thing that's a little bit new that Shulson asked me to do, we went to Angola recently, and I love visiting my mother-in-law's house. I love it. The hospitality is just out of this world. You know, in South Africa, we kotiza when we go home to our mothers-in-law. We're chopping onions, we're peeling potatoes,
Yep.
peeling carrots, whatever. I do none
Yes.
of that. I do none of that. My mother-in-law treats me like a princess. She takes such
Oh,
amazing care of me. When I come downstairs in the morning, they take my children, they go, the table is set for me. Like it's just such a beautiful
nice.
place to be. I love visiting my mother-in-law. And so
Mm,
Shelson said to me that he would really like for me to replicate that hospitality for him at home. So he wants me to set the table for dinner every night. And he feels that as the husband, that's something that would affirm him. So I was like, oh, okay. So you want me to set the tablecloth, plates. And I know, that's not something you do every day. But that
yes.
has become a bit of a tradition in our house now where some days I'm a little bit inconsistent, but it's something that he's asked me to do to affirm him. It's
Yeah.
as a man. It isn't even like it's Angola and whatever. But as a man, he grew up like that, and that's sort of something that he wants. It's so superfluous. It's so easy to do. Why not? And then something that I sort of expect from him, I don't clean the pool. I don't clean the pool.
Yeah.
He must clean the pool. I don't know where to start. Even my son cleans the pool more than I do. I don't know what
Yeah.
to do. I don't know how to. There was this one time where I was like, oh, well, if he's not going to do it, then I'll do it. And I started. I don't know what I'm doing. So he's like, babe, give me the thing, just do it. Jilson also has a background in construction management sciences. So whenever we do renovations, I'm like, I'm just a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
to do any of this. So
Yeah.
I definitely lean on him for that. And then he leans on me to make the place look pretty. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I'll buy the scatter cushions, and I'll buy like, art for the walls and things like that. So those are very gendered things. It's not like you can't do that. It's not like Jilson
yeah.
can't set the table for himself. It's not like I
Yes.
can't learn to clean the pool. I mean, he got someone to teach him how to clean the pool. I can do the same thing, but it's sort of like, I think it ties very nicely back into mental load. Because Jolson has a certain type of mental load, it helps him and it makes him feel less resentful if I come there and I set the table for him. Because after he emerges from his office after a very long, hard day of work, especially this time of the year, it's been absolutely mad. When he sees the table has been set, it affirms him and removes resentment from the mental load that he's experienced all day. And when I open my front door, I see the swimming pool. And when I see that bright blue swimming pool, it affirms that I'm okay with the mental load that I have because my husband has taken on this and my husband has taken on that. When I see contractors in my house and there's banging or whatever, it affirms that my mental load is cool because my husband is also carrying certain things for me.
Yes.
And maybe it's not men and women things, but it affirms me as a woman. It's a silly thing, gender is such a superfluous concept, but we all affirm our genders. It's not just trans people who need to affirm their gender. Straight, cisgendered people, we affirm our gender all the time.
Yes.
And one of the ways we affirm our genders is in relationship with our romantic partners. So that affirmation for us is another way of saying, okay, cool, I can sit with my mental load because my man is taking care of business in other ways.
Yes. Yeah. I think you've worded that beautifully. I really do. By the way, with certain audiences, that can come across as controversial. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I know. It's giving Chad wife. It's giving head of the
What are we,
home.
1950s? Like, are you a 1950s housewife? Who does that? But that's the thing, because you said it, and I love that you stand by it. You're not sort of sheepishly sharing that with me. You're like, this is what my husband has asked of me. This is what's going to affirm him. And it is little things like that. Because we can't escape it. We can't escape um fact that you are in a partnership and you need to, as a wife, listen to your man as you expect him to listen to you. And so I make my husband coffee every morning. And it's not like instant coffee. It's like, I had to learn how to make his perfect cup of
I also had to learn how to do that. It's like that weird little iron thing that you put the coffee in and then it bubbles to the top.
the filter.
I also had to learn. Yes.
He used to be a tea person just like me. So when he started drinking coffee, I'm like, what's going on here? So that's something that he has told me because we've had the conversation of like, how can I show that I love you? So it's not just, I think that I'm doing things to show him that that I love him, but he's not understanding it that way and vice versa. So we have to be very clear, very specific. And that's one of the things that I do because I don't drink coffee at all, but it makes him feel thought of. It makes him feel appreciated. I can't explain why, but he can't explain why. He's like, I just like it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Cool.
Yes. It's that sometimes it's that silly just because I like it. Sometimes it is that superfluous and meaninless, but you know what? In the grand scheme of things, it means everything. It means everything
to him.
Yeah.
So when I've shared that with a couple of friends or whatever, or even in winter, and I hate the cold, I will get up out of bed, I will go downstairs to the kitchen, and I will make him a cup of coffee the way he likes it, And oh my God, that's what I'm saying. Like what she just said now is going to be very controversial to people because I've had that. They're like, you get up from your warm, cozy bed and you make your husband coffee like Aisha. Are you a submissive? I've been asked, are you a submissive wife? You can use the word submissive if you want, but what it is that I wanted to hear from my husband what would make him feel loved. Even if it's two things that he could choose, but if there's one thing that really makes him feel like, oh, I have a wife who thinks of me and she does this just for my, what? I don't want to say pleasure because that goes into other territory, but just for my liking, right? Exactly what you said, to affirm me. And so I'm like, you know what?
Yes.
It's a cup of coffee. Cool. I will do that for you. And he does things for me as well. I like having the door open for me. I just do. And like you said, it is very, very superfluous, very superficial, but I just love it. I do. And so he does that for me. And so it is like, yeah, there are times where we do fit into the so-called, as you said, gendered thing. And if that works for you and that works for him, and it makes your household happier in general, it uplifts the spirits, then great. So with the whole mental load aspect of things, it sounds like you've come to this like acceptance, and not just acceptance, but you almost thrive in it because you've taken that on. Whereas at first you were a bit shaky about it, right? So
resentful. Yeah.
You were resentful, yeah, but you moved past that resentment to get to this place. Do you think if your husband wasn't as open to sort of taking on some of the things that would have added to your mental load, do you think you would have arrived at this place?
Absolutely not. Sometimes I think that I'm so ill-equipped to give marriage or partnership advice because I just lucked out. I lucked out, Aisha. I really just struck gold, and that's not something that you can teach people. I'm so fortunate to have a partner who listens. I like to attribute it to the fact that he was raised by a strong woman. So I think that he has a lot of empathy for women naturally. She's a very principled woman, and a lot of the things that she's taught him are not even gendered. There's just really strong nuggets of wisdom because she's a businesswoman, she's a matriarch, she's so much more, than just his mom. So I think that he naturally has quite a lot of empathy for women and understanding of women. So I really do think that I lucked out. In the same vein, I don't believe that anything is impossible. Marriage is a choice. It's a choice to live your life in a certain way. Every day we make choices that align with our marriage. And I think that if you have a partner who's willing to choose to do something and choose to consider things and choose to listen, choose to optimize the partnership, then that's all it takes. You don't have to have a skill set or a certain background or a higher level of emotional intelligence. You just have to be willing to choose. And if you have a husband who's willing to choose, that's a very strong starting point, because a lot of men, they don't even consider that marriage is a choice in the first place. There's a lot of men who live their lives as passengers.
Yes.
who allow everybody else to drive for them. And everything that they think and they believe is an idea that came from somewhere else. A lot of men don't form ideas within themselves, and they're very passive, and they grow very resentful because now they don't agree in the direction with the direction their lives are going, but they're not driving it themselves. So if you find a man who's able to drive and choose things for himself, you've already got a strong foundation.
I love that. Exactly what you're saying. And I think it's great that you're able to at least also acknowledge that you lucked out in the sense that you already have a man who has that like foundation as you were talking about. And then it'll be a little bit easier to sort of build from there. It just reminds me of an episode, a podcast episode that I listened to very, very recently, actually, Dope Black Dads. I don't know if you listened to that podcast.
I
But
don't.
so basically the host is a black dad, of course, and this episode he was being very honest because he was sharing from the perspective of a good man trying to be a good husband and a good father, and how I'm really summarizing it here because there were just so many nuggets of wisdom that came from there. But it's mostly about how we as women, as the wives, as the mothers of the, good men's children, we should be very careful with how we speak to good men. We should be very careful about how we treat them as well. That not all men are these, almost like a lot of what social media at the moment is kind of pushing that, men are only thinking about themselves and they're not involved in the family life and so on and so forth. But what he was saying was that there are good men, but a lot of us don't have the tools yet to be the husbands or the partners that you necessarily are expecting of us. So instead of just letting us figure it out on our own, can you not help us a little bit here and there? And I think it's stuff like that, like what you're saying. Sometimes you just need to just help, however it is. It's not spoon feeding. It's more like, and again, this is the reason why I'm bringing it up is because you mentioned it in the beginning. Your husband, before he became your husband, came to you and he told you, look, this is a lot, and you listened to him and you didn't bash him to say, yeah, well, just figure it out. You're a
Yeah.
man, figure it out, man up and whatever, which a lot of other women could have gone down that route. But instead, you listened to him as a fellow human being and was just like, you know what? Okay, I get it. And I'm going to back off a little bit. And I think a lot of us can really learn from that, to be honest.
I empathize with women who are dating today, especially women who are older than I was than I was when I got married. I was married by the time Jolson is a year older than me. So by the time I was 23 and he was 24, we were married and we had a baby. That's like whiplash from varsity student to a family, right? That's whiplash. But what that has allowed us to do is see each other for who we are, to grow together as people. Because now we're married for 10 years, 10 years later, we're looking at each other like, wow, high five. Who would have thought we're doing so well, just so chuffed with each other. And when you date later in life, older, in your 30s, for instance, I think there's a culture of women trying to avoid being taken advantage of and trying to avoid, continuing some of this generational traumas and stuff. That the women are saying no, and they should say no. They shouldn't be compromising. They should know exactly what they want and they should get exactly what they want. But unfortunately, marriage does involve a series and a lifetime of choices. The fact that my father is in his 60s and he's only now starting to cook for his wife, and it's his second wife, it just goes to show you that you can't just give up. You really can't give up. And I'm not saying that women should continue to choose situations that don't choose them, but I really hope that women have the discernment to say, I've got a good one here. Let me put up with a little bit of nonsense. And I don't think a lot of people are looking at each other as human beings, as full human beings. We're looking at each other as images, as context, as stories, but we're not looking at the person.
Also, just keep in mind that as much as he's not perfect, you're not perfect either. That was a huge lesson for me. And I still continue learning that as much as there are times when I'm like, he's driving me nuts or whatever it is, or he's doing this on purpose, whatever it is, I really have to hold myself back and think, Aisha, okay, but you're not perfect either. You're also
Yeah,
probably driving him nuts with certain things. And I think when you are able to acknowledge that just as much as I am a human being and I deserve grace and I deserve forgiveness, it's the same thing for your partner, you know? And
yeah,
that for me has been a massive lesson in my marriage as well. It's not easy, but it's possible. So we just keep at it,
exactly,
you know?
exactly.
So what would you say is your whole mama truth?
My whole mama truth is that there is no mother like me. There's no mother like me. As much as I have so much in common with so many moms, there's so many things that we share. At the end of the day, I am so unique. My needs are so unique, and I don't need to apologize for that. And I think that any other mother hearing that needs to take that truth, put it in themselves, and stop apologizing for what their needs are. There is no mother like you. So everything that you want and you need is so perfectly valid, and you should fight for that.
That and exactly that. Like, there's no mother like you, and only you can be a mother to your children as well.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sadie. Thank you so much.
Asha, thank you so much.
Ooh, what a warm and great conversation. I have definitely learned a thing or two from having this conversation with Sadie. I really feel that she was able to verbalize a lot of the thoughts that I've been having in my personal life, in my marriage to my husband. And that is, if you are with a good guy and you recognize him as a good guy and a guy who wants to do better and be better, then you as his wife are his partner to sort of help him get there, and vice versa, of course. As much as motherhood can be and is very challenging, if you have a good partner, it makes it so much easier to do. I have definitely been feeling that there is this lack of real, honest, happy stories about marriage, especially marriage after kids, and how you both need to sort of shift and adapt to each other and figure out how you can collectively move this family forward in a healthy way. Please let me know your thoughts, especially about the whole, I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but why is it that in 2025, something like setting the table for your husband, or like I shared, making coffee for my husband, is so quick to get the reaction that, oh, you're setting us back and you're becoming a trad wife? Obviously, I believe in equality when it comes to the home. I do believe that there are some roles that are possibly easier for certain genders to assume, but I do think it should be a conversation between the two in the marriage. It doesn't make sense if I didn't want to and I couldn't do all of the things that I do, and when I ask my partner to help me and he just says, actually, no, I'm not going to help you, you're the woman, you take care of that. So I think it needs to be a bit more of an adaptive kind of conversation, something that you touch base with each other on every once in a while as your needs change, as your capacity changes, and as your family grows as well. So let me know your thoughts. Do you believe that the mental load is something that we as women should just carry and accept? Is it something that you feel that your husband or your partner can share a bit more in? Do you delegate it? Or do you kind of expect him to offer the help, even though you look like you've got it sorted and you've got it together? Let me know your thoughts. Drop a comment below. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell below, and follow me on my social media platforms. I am Aisha and live, as well as the Whole Mama ZA on all platforms. Just a quick one that my t-shirts are almost sold out. The Whole Mama t-shirts is a limited edition collection of the t-shirts, these branded t-shirts that I've been wearing. So the gold has completely sold out, but there are a couple of the pink ones left if you would still like to place your order. Thank you so much for supporting my brand, for supporting this vision that I have. If you want to be a part of that, please go ahead and order yours before the pink ones get sold out. On my shop, the Whole Mama shop, it is thewholemama.co.za. Thanks again for tuning in. Once again, I'm Aisha Mchuma O'Reilly, and I hope this episode has left you feeling a little bit more whole, mamas.